Bye! My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Duck Dogs, everybody. I'm your host, Josh Miller. And before I get started, as always, let me make sure that we spread the love to our great partners that make this show possible. So first off, thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend of food that I am currently feeding my dogs at the kennel, my personal dogs at home. And I cannot say enough good things about this formula, whether it's the energy level, the coat, the recovery time. It has just been a fantastic experience. And I would highly suggest anyone looking for a premium product, a premium food to put your hunting partner on, go check out Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020. I'm going to share a little bit about that here later on in the episode. Thank you to Kent Cartridge. Kent is the shotgun shell of choice that we have. We are currently using the blanks. They are shotgun blanks, but the Kent blanks in our training sessions. If you're looking for blanks, go check out Kent, but also stock up now so you don't struggle finding shells during season. Go check out Kent Cartridge. Personally, I love the Kent Bismuth. Really would highly recommend that. So thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test ready kennel, both in the intermediate and the large size. They also have the kennel fan. They also have the kennel cot. They also have the kennel mat. They also have they have great dog products. You need to go check out www.luckyduck.com. Also, thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is your premium option for your outdoor clothing wear. It doesn't matter if you're planning on your next hunt or planning on your next training session. Sitka has you covered. Premium options in everyday wear as well as getting you in the field. It will keep you in the field and more comfortable longer no matter what the weather. www.sitkagear.com. Thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs as it pertains to your dog. Great products, great customer service, great selection, and they are one of the very few places that are geared up specifically for you and I, the people that love our gun dogs. www.gundogsupply.com. Last but not least, thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your premium option to be able to train your dog at home with a video library that will walk you through step-by-step from picking your puppy up all the way through finishing your advanced dog. They will, you get to interact with the community. You get to go do, these big events. There's a lot of great things. Go check out that Retriever Roadmap community, www.retrieverroadmap.com. And if it is something you're going to do, use the Duck Dogs code for $100 off your purchase. The letter DD for Duck Dogs 100. DD100 at checkout will get you $100 off your Retriever Roadmap membership. Well, I hope everyone's off to a fantastic day. Ours is very go. We're in that time of year. We actually just hired on another hand for the summer, just because we needed it. I mean, it's a very busy time of year, but it's a good busy. There's busy and there's good busy. This is good busy, but just with the weather, with all the dogs we have going in and out, they're full days. I'll say that they're full days. Before we get into this, I want to tell you guys a little bit about the test that I've kind of personally been doing with my Eukanuba formulas, and you heard me talk a while back about how 26-16 was something that I was transitioning my dogs to, just because they weren't being as active in the in those winter kind of months as they are now. And so here's how incredible this was. Okay, so I got to a point, my dog's been training, we've been training really hard, and I got like 2 to 3 days where they just didn't quite have the energy, and I didn't know if it was weather or what, and I was like, I kind of wrote it off day one. Like, they're all kind of just sluggish today. Maybe it's a little warm, whatever. The next day happened again. I was like, what in the world is going on? Next day happened again. I was like, what is going on here? So I told Whitney, I was like, my wife, if you guys don't know Whitney, I was like, gosh, like I don't know. Like something's just off, like with all the dogs. I don't know what's going on. And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, they just don't have that same pop and that same energy. And she was like, oh. And I knew right then, I was like, what did you do? And she's like, I put a bag of 26-16 in their bin. I know it wasn't 30-20. And here's why I tell you guys that story is the first. I'm going to tell you the next evolution of the story. So the first thing was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it was like a big slap in the face. Like, my dogs were doing fantastic on 26-16. They were everything I wanted them to be in that off season. They were great. They were happy. They were energetic, everything. But when I started pushing them the way that I'm pushing them, we started running the way that we're running. We are doing big things all the time, minimum 5 days a week. Like, they needed more. And it's just amazing how the right formula makes all the difference. So before I switched them back to 30-20, I actually did a split feeding of I think I did. So if I'm feeding 4 cups, I did I think I did a cup and a half in the morning, and then 2.5 cups at night, instead of just my once a day feedings. Still on 26-16, didn't switch them yet. And I did see a difference. I saw these dogs have more energy than what they did. Still not what I wanted them to have, right? But still, like, they did have more pop to them. And if you recall back, and if you haven't, I'd highly recommend you going back and listening to the DUK, kind of the, I guess you'd call it maybe the summit debrief that I had of the DUK summit that we were invited down to, and Whitney and I got to participate in. We learned a lot. But they talked about split feedings a lot. And if you are in the dog world, or if you have been in the dog world, I know when I grew up in the dog world, it was once a day feedings. You didn't even question it. You feed once a day, feed at night. And I do think there's some valid reasons for that. But one of the reasons of the many that were told to us about split feedings, the one was like that it kind of like gives the brain that energy. Right, kind of wakes the brain up. It feeds the brain so it can think. It can wake up. It can do the things that it needs to do, and but you just got to be careful, because you got to give them, like, for me, I'm not going to run inside of 2 hours of feeding. So if I get up and I feed at 5, that means my dogs aren't running till minimum 7, and I usually push maybe 7:30 even, just to be safe. That's tough for me. Right, so it means I feed at 4, so I can run at 6:30, right? Which still can be tough sometimes, depending on the weather. So that was one thing. Now, I'll tell you that I also don't know how skewed. Don't use this as research, because I'm certainly no scientific person. But the other thing I did is I floated the food during those split feedings. Floated the food, meaning I put water just to where the kibbles float. Put water in the dish with it. And the reason is, again, if you refer back to that Eukanuba debrief, that hydration is incredibly important for a dog's nutrition. And I have been now putting water in, or floating, if you will, floating food with these pups, good grief, with these dogs, because I'm trying to ensure that they are getting water, they're staying hydrated. That's very, very important. So could it have been the split feeding? For sure. Could it have been the hydration of the water? For sure. So it's not an exact science. Here's what I can tell you. Now I've gone to split feeding with water, 30-20, and I've got a bunch of secretariats running out there. So for what that is worth, anyone that was interested in that, I am noticing a difference. So I'm going to stay on it right now. Now, if I get to the point like next week, we're going to be in the 90s, I may not, right? Because we're going to be running really early. I may not, right? Maybe I'll do an afternoon feeding and then an evening feeding. I'm not sure yet how I'm going to handle that. I still want to play around with this and try to find what the best combination to the safe is for me and my dogs. But I'm playing with this, and I'll keep you guys posted on this because this is really interesting stuff to me. Okay, so we are in the time of year right now where I think there is some panic going on with people because we're getting to, anytime we get towards the 4th of July, it seems to spark this, because 4th of July kind of seems like from here we kind of go downhill through the end of summer, and hunting season is right behind the corner, right? I feel like there's some panic there, whether it's how your dog is progressing, whether it is you haven't got the work in that you wanted to, whether it's you're just counting on the days and having that oh shoot moment, like this is like I'm getting really close. There seems to be panicked people that I'm talking to more and more. I can tell you, for us at the kennel, this is a stressful time because we have intermediate dogs that are going home here in a couple weeks. And if there are dogs that are maybe lagging a little farther behind than what we wanted, like that's a struggle. It really is. And that's been the biggest difference. Like when I talk to you guys about training your dogs at home, there's an extreme luxury, and please never take this for granted. There is an extreme luxury in not having a timeline, right? When we have a timeline, we talk about all the things we can't control, like we can't control maturity, right? We can't control if a dog is just struggling with something, like, hey, we got to take time to get them over it. Sometimes we don't have time, in our case, and then we got to deal with the people on the other side, and oftentimes the people on the other side don't understand it, and it's just it's frustrating. It's a stressful time for us. So we're in a little bit of a struggle, or a panic time too. Not panic, that's the wrong word for us, but it's one of those things that I feel why there's some panic out there. Just time of year wise. Okay. So I want to share with you guys some things that I've been reflecting and thinking on. And hopefully if you are in this situation, it helps you. And if not, great. It's great that you're not, but it's good stuff to know and just reflect on, because maybe there's a different aspect in your life where this will help you. Okay. So a big thing that I've been focusing on, and I've been telling people when they call me and they're like, I'm struggling with this. It seems like pretty often there's a concession of maybe the dog is not going to be what I want them to be, right? So I just talked to a guy today that the dog is just not understanding casting, just can't understand it. And it's like once we kind of get started and going, and actually it sounded like there was a mess, right? Because it's like casting and everything, it's like he doesn't understand it. And then he just finally starts to do it. So then we start running lines, and then he struggles with lines. So we finally start getting going with it. Then we go back to casting. It's like he doesn't understand casting anymore. And then after all this time, like, screw it. We'll go to Marks. We go to Marks, and the stuff he was doing well, he's not doing it. Okay. He was like, maybe this dog just doesn't have it. Here's what I told him. I've been telling a lot of people this that have that kind of a thought. Okay. So first off, I think the reason that people go to that so quickly is because they don't want to own it, step up, and figure out how to make it work. And now sometimes maybe you're sitting there being like, I don't have that skill set. I don't have that talent. That's not me. Okay, I get that. But there's plenty of resources out there to help you with this. Retriever Roadmap being one of those, right? There are resources out there to help you with this. In the Retriever Roadmap community, it's great how many people jump in and help each other. Hey, I went through the same thing. This is how I did. There's tons of resources. Don't let that hold you back. But I want you to think about this. When you are struggling with something, it doesn't matter if it's dogs, doesn't matter if it's your job, doesn't matter if it's a task, especially when you're working on something difficult, which let's not overlook the fact that training your dog is difficult. You are training a dog that does not speak the same language as you. It is difficult. When you're doing something difficult and you are hitting these road bumps, you're hitting these hurdles, you're hitting these struggles, I want you to think about, don't change the destination. Change your approach. Don't change the destination just because you feel like this is not working. Change your approach on how you attack the situation. For that gentleman that I just referenced, there's likely something that he's doing. There's likely an approach that he has that is not working. How can you do this differently? You've heard me say it before, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting the dog just to change. One is literally the definition of insanity, but then two, do not bang your head against the door or don't bang your head against a wall expecting it to turn into a door. Do something different. Be creative. Think outside the box. Find a solution. Something I preach to my team members all the time is don't tell me why you can't. Find how you can. It's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it, right? But when you're having these struggles, do not change your destination. If you have a goal, don't change the goal. Don't concede to that. Don't change it just because you're hitting a struggle. Change your approach. Don't change the destination. A little story that I want to share with you guys, and this is something I've thought about very often, but I think it's so applicable with this specific topic that we are on right now. I want to talk to you about the rule of thirds. And the first time I ever heard about the rule of thirds, I was listening to an interview that an Olympian, forgive me, I'm not up to date on my Olympic activities, but she was an Olympian. I want to say it was a bar routine of some sort. Maybe there's just bars. I don't know. Maybe there's multiple bar routines. I'm sorry. I'm not an Olympic aficionado. But she was an Olympian. And she talked about specifically a practice that she had that was just bad. She was off. She didn't do what she should have done. She was all over the place, right? And it was not a good practice. Now, think about that. I believe every single one of us listening can put ourselves in her shoes right now, whether it is with your dog, whether it is golf, whether it is any activity you do. I don't care how good you are at it. You are going to have bad days, right? So she got done with the practice, frustrated, and her coach, who was also a former Olympian in this case, coach said, hey, that was not a good practice, but that's okay. So her being the competitor that she is, kind of scoffed at and was like, no, it's not okay. Now, this is where his rule of thirds comes in, okay? So he said it is okay because of the rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds is whenever you're striving to do something great, whenever you're striving through a challenging goal, you're reaching for something, you are truly working at something that is difficult. The rule of thirds means that a third of those days are going to be great. A third of those days are going to be okay. And a third of those days are not going to be fun. They're going to suck. They're going to be crappy. It is what it is. Rule of thirds. And again, if I recall the story correctly, maybe I've made some of this up in my head over the years after the first time I heard it, but she didn't like it. She's an Olympian. She wants all the days to be great, okay? But the coach went on to explain that if you have, now think about this for you and your dog, or you and your whatever you're striving for in life right now. If you broke up the thirds, right? And you're like, no, I don't have bad days. All my days are great or, just okay. But all my days are like that. You're probably not reaching high enough. You're not challenging yourself enough. You are not pushing enough. Your goal needs to rise. Your destination needs to be bigger. Challenge yourself. If you're not having the bad days, it probably tells you something. Now, if you're having way more bad days than okay or good days or great days, okay, that might tell you something. Maybe you're not ready for it. Maybe you are not maybe you're not talented enough, maybe built for this, maybe you're not prepared, whatever it is, right? But that rule of thirds tells you where you're at. As long as you're somewhere in that spectrum, you're doing just fine. So think about your dog. Are you having those great days? Are you having those bad days? Are you having days you're like, yeah, this was okay. That's great. Don't get hung up on those bad days. It's amazing how quickly we will forget the great day and just wallow in that bad day. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your dog. There's going to be those days. And I would actually say if you stood back and you observed and you were able to emotionally disconnect and objectively look at those bad days, there's a lot of learning that can go on for you in that moment. You can learn a lot about your dog. You can learn a lot about you as a handler, how you handle adversity, how your dog handles adversity. What did you do to potentially create this day? What did you do to make it better? There's so many things that you can really learn from in that moment. I think it's really something to think about. So that's going to be it for today because I have a lot that I have to be doing here. So I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I'm going to get back to training. I have some training to do yet this afternoon and this evening. I will come back with you next week. And I have some fun stuff to share with you guys here next week. So hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Rule of thirds. Think about it.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to DUK because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.